Hi, so I don't know how to put this, but I recently found this page and figured I could share my story. When I was around 5, my mom, older brother, and myself moved into a house on our own. Up until then, we were living with my sister, her husband, and my 2 nephews, until my mom got back up on her feet. Even before moving to this new house, I was somewhat of a troubled child, for lack of a better word. I would wake up screaming almost every morning from having horrible nightmares. I used to say I would see 2 little girls in the upstairs bedroom. There were no little girls in the house. It wasn't until years after we moved that my sister moved and had found out that 2 little girls had passed away in the house a few years before moving in. But I'm getting off track here. We moved across town into some fairly decent duplex homes, pretty spacious 3-bedroom house. We were all excited to finally have our own home, and finally have our own room, no more sleeping on the couch. Our excitement fairly quickly diminished when we started experiencing things that we couldn't explain. My mom was fairly religious in the sense that we didn't attend church, but we would pray every night before bed, and before each meal, and sometimes read Bible stories. That being said, about a month after moving in, my cousin who worked for the local church had gifted us some blessed palm crosses. My mother took them and hung one above the back door, which was connected to the kitchen, and one near our living room door, which was adjacent to the kitchen, decided by the stairs that led upstairs. A few days after hanging them, we started noticing every morning, when we would come down for breakfast, that one would be on the floor. So, after a few days, my mother just decided to hang them from 2 nails, and attach a piece of tape to the back of them in hopes that they would stop falling off the nails, thinking that a breeze or something of such would knock them down while we were sleeping. I have a hard time remembering in depth all the experiences we encountered there, but I do remember hearing someone inside the wall talk to me. My mother was the first to really notice this because I would stop playing with my toys in the living room, a few feet from the front of her, and look up and say, "It's back," then continue on playing. Over the next few months, more and more weird things had started happening. I had toys in my room that would go off randomly, toys that you would have to use to wind or use a remote control to move. I had picture books that had buttons that would talk attached to the book. They would be in our hallway closet, and at the most random times they would go off, like someone was pressing the buttons. There were a few instances where my family members would come over and tell my mother, when she would come in from outside, that I was in the bath splashing really loud calling for her. The problem with that was I was outside playing with some neighbor kids. Sometimes we would hear a child slaps, honk and laugh the batch when my mother and brother and I were downstairs in the living room, or we would suddenly be overwhelmed with the pungent smell of lilac flowers. It was at this point we were experiencing 3 occurrences that my mom started to believe that there may be something paranormal going on. She went out and got some sage and attempted to clean the house, while my brother and I were at school and he was at work. What she recounts is that she saged the entire house, living room, kitchen, hallways, bathroom, and my brother's room and her room. But as she was entering my room, she got a off-putting feeling, but nevertheless walked in and started to sage my room. As she's walking around my room, she hears someone whisper her name, Deborah. She describes it as a low whisper. She of course was on edge, but tried to logically explain it away, and finished the saging. Not even 5 minutes after she heard the whisper, she heard another whisper this time. It was more pronounced, Deborah. She says she froze, and as she did, she felt her ponytail lift up, and then drop back down and slap against her back. She then slowly walked out of my room, down the stairs, grabbed the car keys and ran out the front door, and drove to my school, and stayed there for 4 hours until the end of the school day. We went to my aunt's and didn't return home until we picked up my brother from work later on that night. It seemed like after her attempt to clean the house with sage, the activity really started to pick up. Her and my brother would often hear someone whispering their names, Deborah, Joseph, or would sometimes hear what sounded like someone or something telling them to say profanities. My mom didn't know where to go, or who to see, or what to do. The people she told what was going on thought she was crazy, and the other half just didn't want to hear it. So all we could continue was to pray and keep our positive attitude. Whatever is in that house seemed to target myself and my mother more than my brother, and we don't know why. Eventually, I stopped sleeping in my room and started sleeping with my mom. I used to say that there was a man that lived in my closet. I would take family up my closet and show them where the man was, of course, and they never saw anything. But I did. It was about a year of living there when my mother and I started seeing things. She would wake up one night and see the silhouette of a man on the ceiling over the bed, but not able to move or make a sound, then drift back into sleep like nothing had happened. A few nights later, I would wake to the same experience. We would often see what appeared to be red glowing eyes looking through the windows, or would even feel at night like someone had carried me out of the bed and had me somehow here outside. I couldn't wake up, but I could feel the cold wind and hear it and various other sounds of the outside world. We would often see what appeared to be shadows peeking around corners and ducking back when we would look in the direction. But there was one encounter, by far, that shocked us both to the core. One night we're in bed, and my brother was working graveyard, and I was passed out, and my mom, being a mom, couldn't sleep until she knew my brother was home safe. So she sat at the foot of the bed, which was about 2 feet away from her small stand that held our old thick Dell computer and hard drive. She was playing one of the old programmed games when she said she thought she heard something down the hall. So she craned her neck to the side to peek down the hall, and she didn't see anything. Not thinking anything of it as she continued to play the game, when she heard the sound again, but this time it was louder. Before I go any further, for reference, from her bedroom door, you could see my bedroom door. They were facing each other, separated by a 12-foot hallway. Off of that hallway was another shorter hallway that connected to my brother's room and the bathroom. She says when she cracked her neck around the corner this time, she saw some kind of bony, flesh-colored small creature walking from around the corner, as if coming from either the bathroom, my brother's room, or the stairs that were in the middle of the hallway, and entering my bedroom. The best way she could describe it was it sort of resembled the alien from the movie Aliens. The long, pointed head, but smaller, fleshier-like. She said she let out a gasp in shock as to what she just saw, and froze in place. It stopped like it heard the gasp, and slowly turned its head, and stared at it there with no distinct facial features whatsoever that she could see. She sat there frozen in fear, knowing that it was aware of her presence. She started to pray, at which point it turned and slowly walked into my bedroom. Her again not knowing what to do in the situation. Does she wake me up and walk us down the hallway, crossing past my bedroom door, where it's now, to get to the stairs to leave the house? Does she call the cops? Do we climb out the bedroom window and jump from the second story to the ground? What does she do? She sat there for a good 5 minutes, and summoned the courage to go see what the creature was, and what it was doing. Ready for a battle, she stood up, walked down the hallway, flicked on the hallway light, walked into my bedroom, flicked on the light, and to her astonishment, there was nothing there. She checked everywhere, under the bed, in the closet, made sure the window was locked. There was nothing there. She then returned to the bedroom and sat there all night waiting for my brother to come home. The next day was fine. There was no kind of experiences whatsoever. Not to say that these occurrences happened on a daily basis. When it came time for bed, she put me into bed and said she had to go to my brother. So I laid there on my side facing away from the door. What I didn't know is that she was going to tell him about what had happened the night before. A few minutes pass and I feel her sit on the bed next to me. So I roll over to say goodnight and all that good stuff, but when I rolled over, it wasn't her sitting there. What I saw, and swear to God, may he strike me dead right now if I'm lying. What I saw was a darkish colored creature, honey with flesh clinging to it, with its long head looming over me. I screamed. I didn't know what else to do. I screamed so loud that I'm sure I woke the neighbors on the other side of us, and as I sat up to push myself off the bed to run out the room, the creature in one quick motion darted either under the bed or into the corner, somewhere as I ran out of the room down the hall, and my mom and brother pale as a ghost, shaking on the verge of passing out, trying to explain to what I just saw, and that we need to leave. Mind you, up until this point, what my mother and I experienced we never shared. I was 5 or 6 at the time. I didn't know what she had seen and vice versa, but it was the experience that kind of was the last straw in a sense. We ended up sleeping on the couch that night. The next morning, I drew them the best of my ability what I saw, and it confirmed what my mother had seen previous night. We didn't live there for too much longer, but until that day, we experienced unexplainable phenomenons, and the day we were moving, both crosses that I mentioned earlier were thrown off the wall and into the middle of the 2 rooms at the bottom of the stairs, without there being any wind or draft or anything that could explain it away. When moving out, I had to go through all my books and decide which ones I wanted to keep and which I wanted to give away, when suddenly we stumbled upon an old book that was way too advanced for my reading level as a 6-year-old, and it didn't belong to her or my brother, and this book was about trolls. It was when I saw this book and saw the creepy drawing of a sinister troll on the cover that I was able to tell my mom, "There, that's him. That's the man that sits in my closet." This was roughly 16 to 17 years ago now, and I often wonder if the people who lived in after us ever experienced anything in that home. Of course, there was a lot more other things that we experienced in that home that were as prominent or terrifying as the ones mentioned above. I know it's long, and if you want any more clarity or anything like that, just let me know. I'll be happy to do my best to elaborate further. It feels good to find a place where I can share this encounter and not get judged or looked at as a loony or a liar. This is a story from my student placement at a children's hospital. The hospital was established as a military hospital in 1914 and was used in both World War I and World War II. It was just shy of 100 years old when I was there. There were definitely parts of the hospital scarier than others, especially at night. But luckily, I didn't encounter much myself. This is a story about one of the first wards I trained on. I was told that this ward was used as a fever ward in war times. Someone even said it was an open-air ward with no proper roof. So, I don't know if that part is true. Night shifts were when the majority of weird things happened. I never did night shifts on this ward, but I had been told many stories by the nurses and students while I was there. Cubicle 1. Cubicle 1 was said to be active at night. In the duration of time I was there was a baby in the cubicle. The baby was alone since the family had other children and couldn't stay overnight. The call button would go off throughout the night, despite the button being on the wall. There was also an incident of the baby bouncer turning itself on overnight. The bouncer was battery operated, meaning it would rock itself and play music. The bouncer was on the floor, nowhere near the baby. The staff did not like Cubicle 1 at night. The bay consisted of 4 beds and was previously used as the HTU section of the unit. There was one particular bed space that some nurses wouldn't go near, even on day shifts. There were also multiple reports by multiple children who stayed in this bed of a military man coming to visit them. He usually stayed at the end of the bed and talked to the children. Nothing malicious. The children were never frightened, but the repeated stories of the same man made the staff uneasy. As a side note, the most haunted place in the hospital was supposedly the mental health unit. These stories are all from other staff and students who had been there. A matron who was said to be a very prevalent spirit there, seen by many staff. One parent even took a photo of her and showed it to the staff. There was a corridor. I don't know what it was used for or where it went, that had chairs placed as markers, and were beyond the point you were likely to bump into matron or someone else. I've been in a handful of hospitals for my training/career. You want a ghost story? Go to a hospital. This story is from a close friend, kind of a short story. About 7 years ago, one of my best friends, James, was living with his girlfriend, Sarah, in an older house. It was kind of beat up old house in the back of a double lot. 2 houses on the same plot of the land. The house belongs to Sarah's mother, and she let them live there because no one would rent it, and they needed a place to live. They got most of their things in, but not unpacked yet, as James bought in a laundry basket. Sarah's mom mentioned that there was a washer and dryer in the basement that worked. The only stipulation was not to do the laundry after dark. James agreed, but thought it'd be an odd request. Fast forward about a month. James has done a bit of laundry during the afternoon, but forgot to switch it over in the dryer. It's about 10 p.m. now, and he decides it'll only take a second to switch it over, so he'll do it quick despite the warning. The stairs to the basement go down about 7 steps. Then there's a landing, a turn left and 3 more. James gets to that landing and makes his turn and watches a little boy run across the basement from behind the furnace to behind the washer. The little boy wasn't completely solid, nor did he make a sound as he was running. James noped the hell out of there and never went back into the basement at night. This was the first ghost experience he had at that house, but it definitely was not the last. Hey friends, I want to thank you for checking out the video, and I want to give a special thanks to the winners of the contest I've been holding. So I decided to give out $100, that was my first 100 I made from YouTube, back to you guys. So I'm giving away $25 to 4 different people, and these are the winners. Coming in at first is Dr. Cola, second is Kimmy Love, third is Max Paranormal, and fourth is Original Asylum. I will be DMing you guys and getting information on how you can accept payments shortly. And finally, the winner of the merch was BreakerBreaker19. I want to thank you guys for all the support you've had on the channel lately, and for the continued growth that I've been having. I see it every day and I'd love to read your comments. You guys are amazing. So, I guess that's it for now. I hope everybody has a great night, and I hope you enjoy these super scary ghost stories. This is my first time doing a compilation on the channel, and I'd love to see what you guys think in the comments down below, as well as future video ideas. And as always, I want to thank you guys for listening. If you haven't yet, please consider clicking that subscribe button and bell icon to get notified of all future videos. And if you have a story of your own you'd like featured on the channel, head over to my subreddit r/JensenOfficial. If you want early access to my videos, you can head over to my Patreon, where only $1 a month gets you that and some other fun perks. I've also got merch now over on Spreadshirt. I as well offer all my videos on my podcast that can be found on all major podcast services. All links will be located in the description field. I hope everyone has a good night, and remember, keep it spooky.